Forensic science can involve absolutely anything in everyday life. The main sorts of things I suppose we spend our time doing are things like body fluids and tissues with DNA associated with them. Obviously fingerprints are really important as well. Textile fibres from clothing and other furnishings, glass and paint and other types of particulates. Mobile phones and other digital media are increasingly important. Any kind of trace, we can get involved in analysing and comparing and then working out what it's likely to mean in the context of the case. One of the most interesting kinds of evidence is textile fibres, because not only do they come in a wide variety of different types and colours and so on, so there can be very good evidence in themselves, but also they can lead you to specific items in cases where you really ought to focus your attention, and that then can lead you on to things like DNA and marks evidence and all kinds of other kinds of evidence. Blood pattern analysis is an incredibly powerful form of evidence for telling you what went on somewhere. So it's one of the first things you do at a scene where blood has been shed is to have a look at the patterns the blood forms. And there are lots of different things you can do. I mean, first of all, using your eyes and thinking about it, that's a very good start. And obviously photographing it so you've got a proper record of it. And with blood patterns, they tell you two main things. They tell you what happened and a sequence of events at a crime scene, but they also absolutely point you to where to go to sample for DNA profiling, to tell you from whom the blood came. Without doubt, the most significant advance in forensic science in my career has been the development of DNA profiling. Absolutely, without doubt. It's transformed the strength of the link between traces left on clothing, for example, and individual people. The main kinds of samples that you take are the main body fluids, so they would be saliva, semen and blood. But also very much these days, also skin flakes. And you get skin flakes off the surface of clothing and off other surfaces, obviously. And there are a whole variety of different collection techniques, depending on the circumstances, depending on the item and the amount of material you think you might have. Sometimes you can't even see it. And they range from swabbing to cutting bits of material out, to removing the surface debris from an item or surface material from an item using sticky tape, and then cutting up the sticky tape into tiny bits. And so there's all sorts of ways in which you can collect DNA. It's horses for courses, and you just think of each case and each item as you're doing it, and what's the best way to get the DNA off it. But then you have to be incredibly careful that there couldn't be some innocent explanation for it. So you have to understand the context of for example, the crime scene and the suspect's relationship with the crime scene. If they'd ever been there before or they'd handled something that's found there, you have to be really, really careful in interpreting the findings from minute trace material. So that's where the difficulty comes, and potential accidental contamination of items that you're looking at and that you get results from.